In today's video, we are decoding a major diplomatic moment. A powerful phone call between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Are Russia and China really supporting Iran in this rising conflict with Israel? And if so, what's their goal? Why are Putin and Xi Jinping suddenly talking about nuclear safety and peace in West Asia? And what's the real story behind their criticism of the G7? Let's pause here and think. Is this about peace or power? Are Russia and China trying to support Iran or simply counterbalance the West? Hi, I'm Khatija and you're watching the Free Press Journal. The two leaders not only slammed Israel's strike on Iran but also revealed some serious flaws in the G7 alliance, hinted at their support for Iran's nuclear ambitions and even extended an olive branch for peace talks. But is it all just diplomacy or a new power axis forming in the East? Let's break it all down. Well, this was a serious call between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping, and it came at a time when tensions between Iran and Israel are boiling. So what's going on? Let's begin with the context. In the last few weeks, Israel has carried out airstrikes inside Iran. Some reports say these were aimed at nuclear sites, others say they were about sending a message. Either way, it's dangerous. The Middle East is already unstable, and any attack between two powerful countries like Iran and Israel could drag the whole world into trouble. But here's what makes it even more global. Russia and China are stepping in. Not with weapons, but with words, diplomacy, and a little bit of political pressure. So what did Putin and Xi say on that phone call? Both leaders condemned Israel's actions. They said the strike violated international law and the UN Charter. And they made it clear, military action is not the solution to the Iranian nuclear issue. That's a strong statement, especially coming from Russia and China, two countries that often stay quiet when it comes to Middle East tensions. But now they are speaking out. Why? I'm asking again, are Russia and China trying to support Iran or simply counterbalance the West? Now Xi Jinping's message was direct. He called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Iran. He said this is an urgent priority. He also asked the United Nations Security Council to step in and play a bigger role. He added something important. The global problems like this should be solved through negotiation, not war. And in his words, China is ready to talk to everyone, coordinate and play a constructive role. Sounds like diplomacy, right? But this also sends a message to the West. Back off, military action won't work. Xi Jinping also talked about China's broader role. He said China is ready to increase its communication with all parties, not just Iran or Israel, but the whole region. He said China wants to restore peace in West Asia. This is part of China's long-term goal to become a global peacemaker, especially in regions where the US has traditionally played the big role. But what about Putin? Well, Putin went even further. He said Israel's attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities were extremely dangerous. He promised that Russia will stay in close touch with China and work together to cool things down. And that's not all. He also revealed that he is in direct contact with US President Donald Trump and Israeli PM Netanyahu. He said Russia is willing to mediate a peace deal between Iran and Israel. Yes, you heard that right. Putin wants to be the peacemaker. But here's the twist. This phone call wasn't just about Iran and Israel. Putin and Xi also discussed the recent G7 summit in Canada and they didn't hold back their criticism. The G7 is a group of the world's richest countries, mostly from the West. But Putin and Xi pointed out the flaws and tensions within that group. They said there were rough edges between the G7 leaders, especially on how to deal with Ukraine. Now telling you one interesting detail. They said the trip was not very successful for Ukrainian President Zelensky. That's a diplomatic way of saying he didn't get the support he wanted. So what's going on here? Russia and China are not just talking about peace, they're also exposing cracks in the Western alliance. But criticizing G7 and offering to mediate in Iran-Israel tensions, they are trying to show leadership on the global stage. Now let's come back to Iran. Putin made it clear Russia supports Tehran's right to peaceful nuclear development. But at the same time, he said they are willing to address Israel's security concerns. Well, that's a very careful balancing act. He wants to tell Iran we are with you and tell Israel we hear you too. That's classic diplomacy, but it also raises another big question. Can both sides ever be satisfied? Because remember, Israel sees a nuclear Iran as a direct threat. Iran says it only wants peaceful nuclear energy, but there is mistrust and decades of history behind it. So Putin is trying to walk a fine line. So what do we make of this? Putin and Xi aren't just reacting to a conflict, they are shaping the global conversation. They are trying to show the world that diplomacy, not domination, is the way forward. But here's the question I leave you with. Do you think Russia and China truly want peace? Or is this just part of a powerful play against the West? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear your view. So this is Khatija signing off and you're watching the Free Press Journal. Stay tuned for more updates on this story and all the top headlines from around the world.